In 2014, a small animated teaser was posted to a Newgrounds page and YouTube channel belonging to an animator by the name of Parker Simmons. Simmons, known most for his video game parody animations and his work on a few episodes of shows such as Metalocalypse and Motor City, which, speaking of, do you remember this one? Growing up, I always thought this was an Adult Swim show or something because it looked way crazier than most of the other shows on Disney and Cartoon Network. Anyway, that teaser that was posted online was a simple yet high-quality short that showed off a new project known as I Love You Mao Mao. This led to a much longer, more narrative-focused pilot called I Love You Mao Mao, Bao Bao's Revenge. It was originally shown off at an annual animation screening event for the animation studio Titmouse, and eventually, 3 years later, was given the full series treatment, airing a 40-episode season on Cartoon Network in 2019. The show was released to positive reviews, and eventually ended up with a cult following online. And despite a confirmation of a Season 2, Mao Mao Heroes of Pure Heart was stripped from streaming services and hasn't been rerun on Cartoon Network ever since. All because of a change in management. Now, this case is unfortunately not unique. As we've previously talked about another victim of the Warner Discovery merger, a little show called Infinity Train. This time, however, I hope to shed light on a different project, one that I've more recently binged, and I hope you gentlefolk at the jury will see why this little catman deserved better. And that was my opening statement. Why did I choose a court theme for this episode? Couldn't tell ya. I don't think I've ever even seen a single episode of Law & Order. Howdy, my name is Dollar Store Saul Goodman. $1.25 Store Saul Goodman. But you could just call me Butter. Economy joke! Yay. Yeah. YouTube introduced an age flagging system based on what you watch as I was making this video about a Cartoon Network cartoon. And I'm just gonna assume that the algorithm thinks that all animation is for babies. So to counteract that, I'll be sprinkling in some adult jokes for you, as well as 2 fucks, so you won't get flagged. Oh, okay, well, I guess 1 fuck now. Oh, god damn it. It's time to make my case. Is this what happens next? I don't know. I'm holding a one-sided mock trial for a cartoon that came out 6 years ago. Weird theme, I get it. I don't know why I chose it. This show should come back. It should have never been shelved in the first place. That is my case. And hopefully, by the end of this, with all the evidence and witness testimonies, you too will agree. That is, if you don't already agree. I don't know how many people are going to bat for the Warner Discovery corporate office. But before all that, let's explore the world of Mao Mao Heroes of Pure Heart. Because context is key. And also because the rest of the video wouldn't make much sense if you haven't seen the full show. Okay, here we go! As a basic rundown of the show, Mao Mao and his lazy friend Batterclops become sheriff and deputy of a kingdom located in Pure Heart Valley, after causing damage to the one thing keeping evil forces out, the Ruby Pure Heart. In every episode, they protect the king and his people, the Sweetie Pies, from monsters and sky pirates. And they do this while teaching our third main character, Adorabat, how to be a hero. Every episode usually has some sort of lesson that is sparked by one of the characters as they act in a way that causes problems for the main cast and the kingdom as a whole. It sounds like a cute, silly, and lighthearted cartoon, and while it does tap into those feelings, the show is so much more than that. The plot of Mao Mao on paper sounds very different to what it actually feels like, and that's contrasted by how the show is written. The show blends multiple levels of intensity in the dialogue and story so smoothly that it feels really sharp. I want to real quick go over some scenes from one of the episodes of the show to give you sort of a general vibe of the series. Episode 10, Bao Bao's Revenge, is one of the most core episodes of the show in my opinion, and I think a part of that is from the fact that it was developed from the original pilot of the series. Right away in the episode, it has our main character Mao Mao reminiscing on a previous adventure that he went on with Batterclops to Adorabat, in a way to sort of brag and sort of inspire her. He talks about how dangerous and action-packed these battles were, but Batterclops comes in to tell her that it was all a misunderstanding and wasn't nearly as crazy as he made it out to be. They break the fourth wall a bit and fight over different panels of how it really went down, and ultimately leave Adorabat really confused. Not only is this a great, quick setup to our lesson with Badgerclops calling him a serial exaggerator, it shows off the style of comedy and gives us a very succinct showing of the characters' personalities. Mao Mao is dramatic. The guy acts like he's Shakespeare sometimes. He has to find the stakes in the story and things. Badgerclops is the exact opposite, where he doesn't think of things as that big a deal and downplays the situation. And Adorabat is a bit confused but wants to believe that her friends are really badass so she can be just like them. And this also sets up the meat of the episode where Mao Mao believes that his old partner, a traitorous barbarian, is gonna come and destroy the town. We hit that story beat again. Mao Mao over-exaggerates, Badgerclops downplays, and Adorabat wants to believe. We eventually learn that Bao Bao is a dog, and so it seems like Badgerclops' point was proven, until the dog absolutely steamrolls the big lizard monster. But of course, the last laugh has Bao Bao running after a butterfly and Mao Mao cursing him because he thinks he's purposefully abandoning him. So, in this episode, and really most episodes of the show, we have 3 big points that encompasses the heart of the series. The juxtaposition of our 3 main characters' personalities and how well and not so well they go together, the subversive nature of the story beats and how even predictable twists can lead to comedy and fun, and the different moods and styles of writing that leads to a very unique core concept that the show built around. Now that you have a little more context on the series itself, I'd like to call to the stand our one and only witness, because I don't have anyone else to talk to about this. It's me! I don't think attorneys can call on themselves, but, you know, we've broken a billion other rules, so what's one more? My experience with this show was surprising in a very pleasant way. I'd heard about this show, especially around the merger, but it wasn't until recently when a compilation of Badgerclops being gay hit my homepage that I decided to make this video. I watched it thinking that it would just be clips of a character being a little dramatic or whatever, and then they played this scene.
Spicy, sassy, and sweet.
Your Honor, he's just a little fruity. Not that that's why I made this video. I was just reminded that this was another show that went through kind of a similar situation that Infinity Train did. And because that's still one of my favorite videos I've ever made, I figured I should try it again with something I haven't seen before. Was it actually pretty fun to watch? I was a little nervous about it. 40 episodes is still a decent amount to get through, and I can really struggle with staying passionate about something that's episodic while binging it. But every episode felt fresh, and I think a big part of that is due to the characters. They're funny, they're emotional, they're 3-dimensional, they're very well performed. The 3 main characters have had the same voice actors since the teaser trailer for its pilot back in 2014, and they really made the right call with not changing any of them. Griffith does a great job at making you care about a character who's really lax and can kind of be pretty hands-off. Lika's screeches are insane. I can't even imagine how someone can do that without just destroying their throat. And Parker, someone who does so much as the creator of the show, gives an incredibly dynamic performance as Mao Mao's voice actor. The level of expression and emotions that he can portray with his voice is so finely detailed. And he won an Emmy for it, so clearly the guy's good at it. The character designs are great, and I can't complain about the monsters either. They're classic cartoon fantasy lizards, and I love them. I need to mention the backgrounds for this show. Every location looks fantastic. These hand-drawn environments are soft and full of life. They remind me a little bit of Steven Universe's backgrounds, and those were one of my favorite aspects of that show. The episode Lonely Kid takes place in a completely different town, and it made me want to see the show take the plot to more towns and kingdoms just so I could see the new backgrounds because they were beautiful. The autumn colors with the more rural village-type architecture, fantastic. And the attention to detail the lore gets into is insane. I mean, I must have missed some of these when I watched, but online people have found info regarding Mao Mao's missing fingers, his marital status, whether or not he becomes a princess, who breastfed him, and obviously I am joking because that would be crazy. Well, half joking, I guess. I haven't seen or read it, but in the series The Apothecary Diaries, the main character's name is also Mao Mao, and whenever you look anything up about the Cartoon Network show, certain questions show up regarding the novel series protagonist. So it threw me a little off guard when I saw "Is Mao Mao a Virgin" show up while trying to pull up an episode list for the series about a little cat warrior. Okay, our witness is getting a bit off topic. All of this comes to a head with what I consider to be my 3 points of evidence. Fresh from the locker, these 3 aspects are what make the show a great piece of wasted potential due to its quiet cancellation. Our first piece of evidence is world building. If you know me, you know I can appreciate great world building. And this one does it a little differently than I'm used to. On the outside, it seems like a very standard, cute fantasy kingdom with monsters and warriors and outlaws. But if you dig a little deeper, there's a lot more beneath the surface. In only a very few amount of episodes, we get to see civilization outside of the Pureheart Valley, and they are leagues different from it, which creates 2 paths to dive down. 1, having our characters leave and explore new cities and villages, and 2, learning why their home is so strange. One of my favorite things to look out for in fantasy media is how advanced their technology is, because coupling that with magic and dragons and pirates can create fun and interesting worlds to figure out. I'm thinking Arcane, Tears of the Kingdom, Adventure Time has some of it. A world that has both dragons and TVs is pretty funny to me, I guess. And I kinda wish they had a chance to give that aspect some more attention. Before I move on, the craziest lore drop that they show off in the second to last episode is that the Ruby Pureheart that powers the town can just give powers to someone. That could be the whole show. And it's given even more depth by forcing Adorabat, the character that it gave powers to take over the throne and command control of the kingdom. Like, the pure heart of the kingdom made a 5-year-old bat creature steal the throne and make everyone fear her. That crystal is evil. Either it is evil, an evil person put it there, or there is something evil inside of it. And I choose to believe that that is the most likely answer because they set up the show with Mao Mao and Badgerclops accidentally putting a small crack in it. It would be so cool if the plan was to have it eventually crack open and reveal this evil presence inside of it by the end of the show. Ah, man. Okay, conspiracy is done. But that's what good world building does. It makes you ponder. Behind door number 2 is our next piece of evidence. And it's the episode concepts. Or more accurately, the fight concepts. Every episode of the show has some sort of fight or special conflict between the characters, and each of them has some special gimmick or solution that usually lends itself to the lesson or theme. The often out-of-the-box solutions lead to a really fresh-feeling episodic format, which made the series binge way more engaging. In episode 15, after the king joins the gang for a day of sheriffing, the villains get a leg up on them, and it's only through the king's special ability of having good manners that they were able to best them. But the show takes it to another level by having him and one of the pirates partake in a manners duel, which takes their compliments and gentlemanly gestures to the next level by creating a powered-up combat scene out of it. Or in Strange Bedfellows, where the entire plot of the episode has Mao Mao and the leader of these pirates trying to kill each other in a hospital room, breaking their bodies more and more, and using the environment around them to deal the final blow. In Boast and Show, Bao Bao returns and the king ends up taking him in. It causes Mao Mao to get really jealous and he ends up entering a dog show and schemes to get him back. And in that process, they duel by having a prom dance battle to a parody of Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. The date in the magic battle and enemy mime was crazy too. Badgerclops takes a giant slime blob on a date in an attempt to kindly make it leave the kingdom. But in the process, it swallows everyone up, and it's up to Adorabat to use show magic to trick it into freeing the people and exploding itself. And you know what? So valid. That is exactly how I react whenever anyone tries to pull something out from behind my ear. And then put the clip of the guy freaking out over a chicken nugget coming out from behind his ear, and then an explosion.
Boom!
Oh, hey! Now, if you really want to impress me, do it with a chicken nugget, then I'm...
Great. The show is filled to the brim with these creative ways to solve problems, which is such a good sign of great writing. I don't know, I feel like Parker said it in one of the podcasts that he was in, but I feel like they tried to make the different fights as special as possible. And finally, our last piece of evidence. Oh, and it's in such a nice little envelope here too. Let me just, Okay, so it's just a piece of paper that says daddy issues on it. Yeah, one of the main through lines for this show is Mao Mao's familial problems and his need to feel respected by his father and his family as a whole, which really caught me off guard, especially in the way that it was introduced. But the episodes that focused on it ended up being some of the best in the series. The first big episode that mentions it is episode 7, Not Impressed, where Mao Mao meets a sweetie pie that isn't that big a fan of his, which causes him to become obsessed with the thought of impressing him. It seems like this goofy plot of making a sad guy like him, but it takes a really unsettling turn as he hunts this guy down to get him to tell him that he's impressed with him. All as it's cut with clips of a younger Mao Mao begging someone to watch him. And of course, we see later that it's him talking to his dad. This was the episode that cemented me into watching this show, and this part of his character definitely didn't stop here. The next episode he appeared in was his actual physical appearance, where he comes to visit Mao Mao, and the entire time he ends up making his son feel this sense of disappointment and dread, constantly belittling him and making him feel small. The episode shows off Mao Mao in a completely different light. He's usually confident, dramatic, and righteous, but here he's so meek and almost apathetic, which shows the important role that his father, Shin Mao, plays in his life. Near the end of the episode, we learn that just like those dudes with the trucks that have the dual rear tires and the massive exhaust pipes, he too is compensating for his size. He's knocked out of his armor fighting a dragon and cowers when he's put in harm's way. But Mao Mao doesn't question his father's insecurity and instead notes how poorly he himself did in the fight. It's so fascinating that his instinct is to respect his father and go back to the status quo, despite the fact that he's seen him for who he really is. This episode is Shin Mao's one true appearance in the show, and although I have issues with its placement in the series order, it proves how well this team could write stories in the 11-minute runtimes of each episode. And the episodes where he shows up in flashbacks later on are some of the best episodes in the show. It just adds so much depth and future potential, being able to further their relationship and introduce other members of the family as well. So, you've heard my case. And now, to close out, I'd like to reiterate the current state of the show. Yeah, much like Infinity Train, this show is in the void. It's never really been officially canceled as far as I can tell, but it's also very clearly not happening anymore. A perfect definition of shelved. It's really unfortunate because since the show aired, this series has picked up a cult following online, so there's plenty of audience left for it. And as I've talked about in this video, there's so much left it had to give. Every project I look into that got canned because of the merger, I'm just left so disappointed in the wasted potential that it buried into the ground. At this point, it seems that, just like Infinity Train, there really isn't much hope for a continuation of the series. And that's a real bummer because I enjoyed this show, and it stands out as a great example for Cartoon Network in its last era where they genuinely seem to care about new, original ideas. I don't know if you've seen much of the current and future series they have lined up, but all of their in-house stuff is just spin-offs of pre-existing properties. But in the past 5 to 10 years, we've been hit with some of the greatest animated movies and TV shows of all time. And to see these shows with all this potential be crushed under a corporate boot, it's very disheartening. And I hope that someday things will start looking up for these projects.